Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Place and Sustainability Overview and Scrutiny Panel. I'm Councillor Steve Rippon-Swain, Chairman. I will now hand over to Democratic Services to read the housekeeping note.
Please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's website and on YouTube. It will remain available for a minimum of 12 months. Please use your microphone and switch it off once you have finished speaking. Please switch any mobile devices to silent. If the fire alarm rings, please leave the room and use the nearest fire exit. Do not use the lift. Please go to the fire assembly point in the car park. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. For the benefit of those watching the meeting online, please would members introduce themselves during the meeting, if not already introduced by name, and could I ask officers who are on to report on certain subjects also give their name, their post and a one-liner as to their responsibilities. Thank you. Apologies.
We have apologies from Councillors Hartman and Thierry, and we have Councillor Kate Crisell sitting in as Conservative substitute. Thank you.
Welcome, Kate. Item 1, minutes. To approve the minutes of the meetings held on the 12th of May and 19th of June. Do members agree with their content as a minute? Agreed? Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. If anybody have an interest in any subject here, if they can't think of it at the moment, it comes round to the subject to which they may have an interest, they can declare it at that time. Thank you. Item 3 is public participation. There is none. Item 4, Strategic Community Infrastructure Levy, the SIL programme. And call on Dean Brunton and Ian Bennett to produce the paper.
Thank you, Chair. So Dean Brunton, Service Manager for Planning Policy, Infrastructure and Delivery, particularly here in overall governance of the Community Infrastructure Levy. Ian Bennett won't be joining us this evening. He has been brought in as our dedicated project manager to deliver these strategic projects, which were kind of approved by Cabinet in October last year. This report is providing an overview of those 5 strategic projects funded through the Community Infrastructure Levy, of where £4.5 million was allocated to support the delivery of the 5 projects which are contained in the report. Just a couple of clarifications to begin with. At paragraph 30, it should read 850,000 rather than 950,000. And in paragraph 36, where we allude to additional £1 million possibly being spent in Lymington, the figures don't quite add up to that on the basis they're very indicative at this stage, and it could very well kind of be swallowed up, but kind of effectively we're saying that an additional 1 million could easily be spent in that area as the projects develop. Overall, the report just sets out the progress to date in delivering these projects, the projects being Ringwood Town Centre, Milford-on-Sea Seafront, Bath Road in Lymington, Totton Town Centre, and a multi-user trail throughout the New Forest. By way of progress, as well as bringing in the project manager, Ian, we've also appointed consultants to work on 4 of those projects to develop concept plans of what we'd like to see in that area, and we'll be planning on bringing those back to November Cabinet for a decision to move to the detailed design stage. The multi-user trail is being developed in partnership with Hampshire County Council on Forestry England and the New Forest National Park, so that's coming a separate route, but we will obviously update with relevant scrutiny as we go along. As set out in paragraph 60, whilst we can easily allocate the £4.5 million to deliver most of these projects, there are further elements to each of those projects which could mean additional funding, about £1.5 million, could be required, but that will be brought back when we come back in November. So the next steps of where we're going, the concept signs will be presented to Cabinet in November this year. At this stage, we haven't got those concept plans, otherwise I can't share anything with you to date, but we are working towards that with a summary of what will be delivered in each project in the report. And the approval is that, subject to Cabinet approval, we'll proceed to detailed design, tendering, and aiming to have these delivered by, hopefully by 2027. As set out in paragraph 54 of the report, both parish and district councillors in those areas where the projects are due to be delivered have been consulted, and before proceeding with full expenditure on those projects will ensure appropriate governance and scrutiny takes place before those are spent. Just alongside this is just to note that officers are currently seeking expressions of interest on further strategic projects that could be spent on, still money could be spent on, and that closes at the end of September, with further reports back to yourselves and Cabinet in due course. So just to note, the recommendation of what we're seeking is that the panel is asked to note the progress and to support the recommendation to proceed through to detailed sign and tendering for Cabinet decision. So thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Yes, right. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, please.
Yes, question. Alvin.
Councillor Alvin Reid represented Milford and Hoddle and the other three little villages. Paragraph 60, again, that additional funding, will that need to go through a scrutiny panel, or is that delegated authority?
That's one we'll be proposing to take to Cabinet, as part of that February decision, and once we've seen those concept designs coming out. At this stage, everything is rather indicative because we haven't sort of seen any concept designs and taken them to there. So currently we have sort of the delegated authorities for the £4.5 million, which obviously we'll be presenting to Cabinet with possibly those further designs for Cabinet decision, which could incorporate as part of that expressions of interest that I mentioned will be coming following the closure of the window in September.
Okay, thank you.
Malcolm.
Thank you, Chairman. Yep, great report. Understand very clear and concise what we're aiming to do with these particular projects. What I'd like to know is how much more money have we got in the pot for strategic SIL for future projects, and how much more do we project we will get before 2028?
I think obviously we do have a number of strategic sites coming forward, and the thing with SIL is obviously it's calculated when decisions are made. We publish an infrastructure funding statement each year, which does set out kind of how much money we've got in the bank and how much we're forecast. That's due to be published by the end of this year, so that will contain a more detailed update of exactly where they are. But we can look to update you with kind of those full figures outside of the meeting, if that would help.
Have you got a rough ballpark figure? How much is in the bank at the moment and unused?
Currently, in infrastructure funding statement, it says we're holding around about 9 million in total
9 million.
of in the bank at this stage.
Yeah. Right, thank you.
Any other questions? Right, in that case, I'll go straight to the recommendations on page 5. Our members agreed with the 2 points in the recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item 5, the New Forest District Council UK Shared Prosperity Fund summary. And Tim and Nat are the two men concerned.
Good evening, Chair. It's Tim Guymer presenting today. Tim Guymer from, I'm the Assistant Director for Place at the Council. And just wanted to bring you a brief update to yourself and members on the delivery of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Rural England Prosperity Fund. They've got the two acronyms, the UK SPF and the REPF, as you read through the report. Together, these programmes have brought over £1.5 million of government funding into the district to support local priorities between 2022 and 2025. UK SPF in particular has focused on communities and places, supporting local businesses and people and skills, while the REPF, the Rural England Prosperity Fund, has targeted more the business innovation and community infrastructure side of things. Appendix 1 of your report details that through the UK SPF we've delivered a wide range of projects, and they include town centre improvements in Totton, Fordingbridge, Ringwood and others. We've delivered EV charging points through the district, including at Lyndhurst itself. There are a variety of cultural and active lifestyle programmes which have been funded, and business support initiatives like the Apprenticeship Skills Hub and the Green Skills Training. And to date, through the UK SPF, we've supported over 1,300 businesses, helped nearly 1,500 residents engage in job searching, and made general improvements to the public realm. Under the REPF, the Rural England Prosperity Fund, and as detailed in Appendix 2, we've funded 12 business projects and 12 community organisations, enabling everything from solar panel installations to new equipment for local enterprises, and indeed upgrading many residents, village halls and community centres. You'll see a number of PV panels, photovoltaic solar panels appearing, and this fund has really been helpful in that regard. In a minute, I'll run through a couple of those projects as a slideshow, just 4 or 5 as an example. But just the report does talk about key lessons, and they include the value of fewer, well-managed projects and the importance of early innovation and support to drive opportunities for cross-sector collaboration when we're doing this work, and to ensure that productivity is maximised. I would say that these programmes have delivered real impact across our district, and we'll continue to monitor outcomes and share learning as we move forward. As I say, there are a couple of slides which I'm hoping that my IT skills help share with you here, panel, and they are just a few which are listed in Appendix 2 of the report as well. But if I just click through, first project is Water Products Limited in Ringwood. They are a company that specialise in the manufacture and packaging of their own brand of fish and plant food. They were allocated £11,750 towards specialist equipment to help their business in the packaging of their bird food, and that's been shown to been well received and helping their business productivity. The second project, I'm having to click on the screen, is Fairweather Garden Centre in Bewley, which I imagine a few of us are familiar with that, in particular, which is a garden centre and cafe based, as I said, in Bewley. They were allocated £15,000 towards the purchase and installation of solar panels, which are shown on the picture in front of you, and that has helped to improve the environmental sustainability of the business, particularly when managing energy costs at times of high energy prices. Another company to draw your attention to is, and forgive me, I'm going to get this wrong in terms of pronunciation, but forcouture.com Limited in Ringwood, which provide branded workwear and PPE to a wide range of sectors, including hospitality, engineering and transport sectors. They were allocated £17,500 towards a specialised embroidery machine that again has helped them to increase their productivity and production. And that photo in front of you there is that machine which we've helped to fund through the grants. Final one, Lymington Community Association, which is a cinema and theatre providing cultural space for live performances for Lymington, Pennington and the surrounding area. They were allocated money, £11,000 towards stage lighting, that has helped to improve the lighting quality of the place, but also again to help with managing their energy costs going forward. So just a few examples of those which are listed in more detail, both in the appendices, but then also on our webpage, because we're keen to bring attention to the value of these funds across a wide range of the different organisations and businesses across the New Forest. I will stop there, Chair, and stop sharing my screen. Thank you.
Any questions? Malcolm? Alan? Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. It would be interesting in the report, because you've presented some very worthy projects there, to know the location of all the other business projects, to see if there's a widespread across the forest, or is it really centred in certain areas? Because there are lots of businesses probably in our district that could have benefited from this sort of product. It would be good if you could let us know that. Thank you.
Chair, happy to take that as an action from this meeting to share back the locations of all of those with the panel by written correspondence, if that's helpful.
Okay. Thank you. Alvin, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim. That's a good briefing. Appendix 1 and Appendix 2. Appendix 2 has a nice column that gives the money that's allocated for each project. That doesn't appear in Appendix 1. Could we add an amendment to this table so that we can see how much money's gone to each project, please?
of course, Chair, happy to do that as part of the action coming from this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Any other queries? No? Right, members, I take you to page 21, where the recommendations 1 and 2 are. And do you agree with those recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item 6, the waste strategy update. Karen, I think you're going to present this.
Yes, good evening, members. My name is Karen Punchard. I'm the Waste Programme Director. So I've been brought in to review governance, provide assurance, given that I've managed various waste rollouts and transformational changes for other councils. I'm going to be talking to you this evening about the rollout of the waste and recycling service in the New Forest, in particular lessons learned from the for the next 2 phases, phases 2 and 3. Just reminding members of the timeline, where we are, and talking through some of the issues which I know have been raised at other meetings. So if you're happy for me to just talk, I'll be talking for about 10 minutes, and then there'll be an opportunity at the end of the presentation for members to ask questions, both of myself, and we've got Chris and Liz from the service here to help answer those questions. Just a reminder of the legal background. All waste collection authorities, which New Forest District Council is one, have a duty to collect domestic waste under the Environmental Protection Act, and Section 46 notices can be issued to residents, which effectively mean the council can state which type of container the waste should be collected in, and also where those containers should be placed at the edge of the property. The Environment Act 2021 and the more recent Simpler Recycling reforms have introduced a duty on all waste collection authorities to separate food waste, and the deadline for doing that is March of next year. So it was really very important that New Forest did roll out their new service and introduce these separate weekly food waste collections by that deadline date. There have been grants provided to all councils, including New Forest, based on the cost of new vehicles and new staff to roll out those additional services. New Forest has their own waste strategy, which went through the council, was approved back in 2022 and updated last year in February 2024, and the waste collection policy, which is really sets out how that strategy is going to be delivered on the ground, was approved in July 2023. Just to give you a flavour of, I suppose, the detail and complexity of the waste programme, you'll see on this slide we've set up a very good governance arrangement. We have a waste programme board, the leader, the environment and finance portfolio holders sit on that board. So that board makes all the key decisions around the programme. Obviously, anything with financial consequences comes back up to Cabinet. And then there is a sort of senior officer steering group. Councillor Blunden, the portfolio holder, also sits on that steering group. And, those groups meet regularly to really oversee all of the issues, some of which are listed below, and provide direction and strategic guidance to the working groups. So sitting under that board and steering group, we have a series of working groups and project groups, and the sorts of things that those groups are considering, and a lot of these are mini projects in themselves, so improvements to depots, and this included the completion of the new Hardley depot, as well as enhancements that are progressing at Ringwood and Lymington depots, new container procurement. So not only do we have to purchase containers, we have to arrange the distribution of containers to households. They have to be stored. So again, you know, logistically, that's quite a complex operation that needs to be monitored and tracked to make sure that we do get everything in time and it's able to be distributed effectively. There's been a whole series of property assessments across the district. These started with Keep Britain Tidy, but a lot of those have had to be updated. We've got a waste advisor team that go out to properties, they do property assessments. So there's a lot of work going on looking at individual circumstances because not everyone, you know, meets the general rule. Again, there hadn't been route planning in the New Forest for many, many years, for 10 or 15 years. So we've introduced a modern route planning software called Bartek, and that means that the routes can be planned very efficiently, taking into account the time it takes a vehicle to travel, where it needs to tip, so on and so forth, and how long it takes operatives to actually you know, move the bins, get them on the bin lift, so on and so forth. So again, route planning, little mini project, all of its own. Again, we've got additional food waste rounds and moved from weekly to 2 weekly collections of residual and recycling. So that has meant we've needed both additional vehicles and additional employees. So there's been you know, a really key recruitment campaign for additional loaders, additional drivers. So again, that's another stream of work that's going on behind the scenes. And last year we did revise some working practices and some terms and conditions. Historically, the waste operatives at New Forest had worked on a task and finish basis, which meant effectively once they'd finished their rounds, they were able to go home, and they've now moved to a more standardised 37-hour week, which again fits with the revised route plans. Again, a lot going on behind the scenes in terms of back office support, ICT, procurement, HR. So, you know, ICT have provided a lot of support for a lot of these back office systems that support the in-cab technology and Bartek, as well as, you know, some of the website improvements and customer interactions with the team. And of course, we've got ongoing communications, dealing with media inquiries, keeping the website and social media up to date. So that just gives you a flavour of, you know, some of the, you know, the wide range of projects and issues that need to be considered as part of this wider programme. So this has been quite a significant transformational change for New Forest District Council. You know, we've got new containers, you know, over 100,000 just for phase 1. You know, that's an awful lot of stock to get delivered, to store, to move around the district. So again, logistically, it's a lot to plan and organise. Food waste collected for the first time as a separate waste stream. That's been really successful in the New Forest. I think the, you know, the take-up rates of food waste have been much higher than is the average in other councils. So that's really good news for residents of New Forest. It means your recycling rates are going to improve as a result of that. There's been a change in collection days, times. There are 2 separate vehicles now, whereas there might only have been 1 vehicle. So again, that's something else for both the crews and residents to get used to. New routes for the crews to get used to. And again, new staff taken on to support the collections and to support the changes in working practices. We talked about some of the new ICT systems, and also because of the additional numbers of staff and the additional numbers of vehicles, we've also had to improve depot facilities, the layout of the parking at Marsh Lane in Lymington, and at the moment we're working on providing improved office and porter cabin facilities at Ringwood. Again, lots of induction and training, both on, how to use the new bins, how to use the bin lifts, lots of new staff having to be inducted in all the health and safety side of things. And of course, there's been a lot of cross-departmental, multidisciplinary teamwork around the council, a lot of work with customer services, housing services and communications. So what have been some of the key issues that we've come across in phase 1? We can say for the majority of residents, the service is working well. And I think this is predominantly for those in the urban areas. That we have seen improved recycling rates, particularly take-up of food waste. We've seen a cleaner and safer operation for operatives, so we're not getting so many reports of incidents and accidents. Operatives are much happier with the way that they're working. And of course, there's less litter, because there was a lot of litter as a result of waste in sacks, and we used to have street scene litter operatives following the rounds to collect that litter, which we don't need anymore in phase 1. So where have things not gone so well? For phase 1, there were delays in delivering containers to some residents. Missed collections were higher than we anticipated, and some of the rounds have taken longer to complete than expected, and these have tended to be in the rural areas. We have got livestock accessing food waste in the open forest, and we've had periods of very high customer contact and slow response times. Again, possibly as a result of the introduction of the new service, possibly other external factors, we've seen a significant increase in the use of bring sites over this period as well. Some of that is commercial waste, some of that is people not having their waste collected, taking it to bring sites on their own. There has been confusion over collection points, over some of the messages. What does curbside really mean? What does curtilage mean? So again, we've looked at that. And as a result of dealing with some of those issues, it's meant that the deliveries and sack deliveries in particular in the other parts of the district outside phase 1 have been affected. So sack deliveries have been delayed. Some glass collections have also been delayed. Again, some of the flat assessments have had to be revisited in terms of the assumptions that were made about the number or size of containers. And again, we have had a delay in some of the larger and smaller container deliveries where they've been requested as well. So what are the learnings? I think this is the important part really for us. We've done a lot of work on lessons learnt, and we do keep track of all of these issues, and we are learning as we go along, as well as learning from other councils. So on container deliveries, we've worked really hard with the contractor. So we've got improved data provided to the contractor. We've got live progress sheets for phase 2, improved contract management in terms of that regular contact and that relationship. And we have got spot checks going on both by the provider and by the council to make sure that things are going as planned. And so far for phase 2, that is going well. Missed collections, again, we've put significant additional resource, particularly for the rural rounds. We've brought forward recruitment. We've maintained market supplements for drivers and as an incentive, because it's been very difficult to recruit drivers. That's not just for New Forest, that's waste collection authorities generally in this area. We've introduced improved training on the in-cab devices because some of the operatives have been struggling with that. And, you know, we continue to monitor round completion rates very closely and make sure that staff are engaged early with familiarisation for the new rounds for phases 2 and 3. In terms of the livestock issues, we are currently undertaking 2 trials, one in the Brockenhurst area, where the food waste containers are placed behind the gate where that's practical, and the second in East Boulder where all containers are placed behind the gate. And the initial results of those trials are coming forward and will help to inform a business case that will be brought to Cabinet to consider a potential change to policy in the open forest going forward, looking at the financial and other resource implications of that. In addition, we've got new arrangements in the open forest to cover the pannage period starting next week on the 15th of September. So additional resource has been allocated. So again, food waste containers can be collected from behind the gate, and all of those residents that have been affected have been written to over the last week and are aware of that change. In terms of customer contact, again, you know, we've had reports of people in some periods having to wait very long times to get a response. So we've continued to provide, you know, direct communications to residents. We've employed additional customer service resource. We're in the process of appointing additional waste advisor resource. We've reviewed the website messaging and improved the case management. We've also had support from the Council's transformation team to help with some of these actions and look at how you know, some of the website interactions can be improved further. And I think some of the other actions, you know, introducing additional rounds, additional resource, and all the other changes that we're introducing for phase 2, we feel should help to reduce customer contact in any event. So again, further learnings, just to draw to your attention, there are more than this, but these are the key ones, I think. I think in terms of data quality, the District Council didn't really have a single set of data to show which households actually fell within the perambulation, i.e. the area of the forest within the cattle grids where the animals generally roam. We have now got that in place, so that has really helped with planning of routes and planning of resource requirements. The bring sites, again, these have had to be serviced more regularly because of the additional amount of waste. That's taking resource away from the frontline waste service. So we've been looking to recruit more staff. We're reviewing whether or not some of these collections could be outsourced. And we've also upped the amount of enforcement activity for the commercial waste. Collection points, again, full assessments before phase 2 commences. That's all happened, and additional resource has been provided for SAC deliveries. So deliveries are catching up now for phases 2 and 3. In terms of flats, the containers are being delivered earlier, and there's much greater oversight by both the waste advisors and supervisors, with support from housing colleagues. We're communicating weekly now with members to make sure that you get timely updates on what's happening in the waste, and we've got member and town and parish council briefings in the diary coming up in a couple of weeks, specifically for phase 2. And again, governance and oversight remains strong. We've got weekly meetings of the steering group and monthly meetings of the Waste Programme Board. Just a reminder of where we are in terms of the timeline. So looking at the second set of arrows, phase 2 Ringwood, we're in the distribution of containers phase. moving towards the service rollout date of the 20th of October. So that's all going smoothly. And just looking ahead to the final phase, which is based from the Hardley depot, and this is the largest rollout phase. December and January we'll be receiving bins to store, and then between January and March they'll be distributed to households in the Tottenham Waterside area, and the new service will start there on the 16th of March, again just in time for that government deadline of the 31st of March. So all of these actions and learnings have been subject to extensive consideration both within the governance structure of the waste programme, but also within council, within cabinet very recently. We've had the notice of motion, we've had the extraordinary meeting in August, cabinet on the 3rd of September. We're here today for members to consider issues today. And then we've got council on the 15th of September. So again, being very open about the issues that have been raised and the actions that have been taken to address those. So in conclusion, this has been a massive change in terms of the complexity of change for New Forest. I think a lot of benefits are already been seen in terms of the take-up of recycling and litter. There have been challenges in phase 1, but all of those improvements are in place, and we think that things are looking much better for phase 2, which again is a much smaller phase with good governance and oversight. So that's the presentation concluded, and we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I've got a growing list. First, Peter, please.
Councillor Peter Armstrong. Some of us as councillors had the privilege, I would say, been invited by the Brockenhurst residents and some of the parish councillors last week to come and see what was going on there. Personally, I was surprised by a lot of things that were going on, and as the councillor from Brockenhurst knows, I prepared a personal report from what I saw, which reflected what we saw and was sent on along with the residents. Their report came at the same time. I know there's a lot going on, and I'm pleased to hear back that a number of things have happened, that a letter has now gone out to the residents. Also, the way that I know James has, I don't think he's had a meeting yet, but is arranging with the residents to meet them face to face, which is a real plus. I'm also, I think, with the waste thing, that I know Councillor Blunden have got a dedicated email now for councillors on these issues, which is a step forward. So councillors' emails don't get lost in the ether all over the place when these things are going on. I did put another few recommendations forward and ideas, and I was so pleased in talking to the residents at Brockenhurst that they want to work with us with solutions. I think that's something that all of us, really are responsible to do, is to find solutions where there are problems. Looking for solutions, someone said, without listening to the problem is working in the dark. So I was pleased to listen and see the problems, and I'm glad to hear some solutions going forward. But I would like to hear from those in the waste service, as a matter of a question, any other things that are particularly happening in Brockenhurst that I'm not already aware of to address the issues that we saw, and perhaps be an update from any waste officers of other things. I do know as well, I heard that supervisors are going visiting these people at these houses that we actually went to on the Friday morning, so that's a plus, which is really good. So it's good to know that there's action being taken to some of the things. The Brockenhurst residents made a very good case when they came along to the council chamber when they came. It's pleasing to see things are moving forward and lessons are being learnt, but any update from officers on other ways forward to resolve the issues that a number of us saw? That's the question I'd like to ask.
So we've got a range of pieces of work going on at the same time. So the core of this is so apologies, I'm Liz Mockridge. I am the service manager for the waste and transport teams. So there's a raft of pieces of work we're going, and a lot of them kind of work very closely with each other. So the core one in here is the additional resources that come with the behind the gate collections. This gives us basically the support for the Brockenhurst area collections, allows us to stabilise those somewhat more. We know that a number of people are already placing them behind the gate, so this gives us the resource to actually support and encourage that somewhat more. So some random sampling that we've done in the Brockenhurst area found that about 73% of residents in the samples were presenting the containers behind the gates already. We hadn't planned that resource, so now have that resource to ensure those collections can stabilise in that area. So that was part of one of the challenges we've had. And as you've mentioned, the supervisors are able now to more proactively go out and tackle some of these issues. And that's because where we had issues with the collections, the supervisors themselves were out driving vehicles and supporting crews with spare vehicles, which gave us an issue with the supervision and with those site visits to the residents. So that initial bit of work, releasing the additional resources, gives us that knock-on of being able to tackle things a lot more quickly with the supervisors. There's a further piece of work, which is the resetting of some of the narrow access rounds. This went live last week, so the residents have been written to a few weeks ago, and we changed some collection days to rebalance it. That's been very successful. Last week we had a slight issue on the Monday where one of the rounds went out late, and that led to about 20 properties not being collected, which has been addressed this week. So that itself as well has managed to allow us to release a huge amount of supervisor resource, and that supervisor resource is really critical to us being able to drill down into the finite detail and really settle those services. So it's a number of pieces of work just beginning to come together.
I'm pleased to hear we've got supervision for the contractors, because there was an issue which needs saying, the police pulled them up for overloading documents. So supervision is important for these contractors. Thank you.
Thank you for your inclusion, Liz. Could you announce yourself, please?
Yep, apologies, so I'm Liz Mockridge. I am the service manager for the waste and transport services.
Thank you very much. Alvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that. It's good to see that we've identified most of the problems and we've got actions in place to sort out those problems. You mentioned resources of alternative councils. How are we performing on recruiting when there's an industry-wide shortage of people to do this job? Are we offering any incentives for them to come to the New Forest, or are we struggling like everybody else?
So, again, sorry, I'll pick that one up for the team. What we've done, so we did have a particular issue. Each of the depots has different success rates at recruiting staff. So we know that the Lymington depot, for example, has a really poor recruitment rate for drivers, and that's because of the area it's in. Hardley and Ringwood are a lot more successful. So it did have the initial issue with Lymington. Ringwood has successfully recruited all its drivers. We are, because of the issues in Lymington and Hardley, have implemented market supplement. So it's a slight increase in pay to make us a lot more competitive, having done some benchmarking with the other areas. So that's put us in a much stronger position going forward.
Thank you. And I have a second question, if I may. You talk about training of the in-cab devices. Can we have a little bit of information what these in-cab devices, what information they provide?
So the in-cab units are the market leader nationally, so they're provided by a company called Bartek. They are just a bit bigger than a sat-nav unit would be in a vehicle, and what it allows the crews to do is to see, depending on which view they're looking at, and it can be tailored to each one, either a map-based approach which shows them effectively pictures of all the bins on their round, and they're colour-coded, so if they're red, they need collecting. If they're green, they've already been collected. Or if they're purple, they're assisted collections, and we just need to make sure that we're doing exactly what needs to be done on those. Alternatively, they can look at it in a list view, and it will highlight the properties, again, that they're meant to be collecting from. With those, what they can do is report any issues on collection. So if the container is not out or there's a incorrect recycling in the bin, they can report that all back in. If they have any vehicle issues, or if the supervisors need to contact them, again, that can go through that unit. So what that means is we've got real-time reporting from the crews going to the customer service team. It also goes to the portal, which allows people to report miscollections. So we've got the residents able to use the portal so they can log in, have a look at what's going on with their collection. If they think it's later than normal, they can track whether it's happening that day, if we've had any potential issues. So if the crews have got a breakdown, they can report it on that, and the resident can see that they've had an issue in that road and that will either be coming back later or the next day. Or if we've specifically left it for a reason, they can look at that. They can report miscollections through it, and that goes live back into the vehicles, so to the supervisors of the vehicles, so we can actually plan the resourcing and make sure that we're able to respond as quick as we can. That same system has a phenomenal amount of functionality to allow us to monitor the collections, monitor the progress during the day, produce statistics on times that are taken. That's what we're using as part of the trial evidence to work out the impacts of the services. It allows us to put all kinds of information into the crews, even as much as recording the gate codes, so the crews have always got them if they've got a coded bin store or a coded gate to get through. So it's a phenomenal tool to just keep the information going back and forth and make sure that we can provide as much information to the residents and the customer service teams as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Adam, you're next.
Thank you very much. I've got quite a few questions, some of which are for Councillor Blunden and some of which are for Karen. Does it make sense for me to divide it up into two, or shall I just go for the lot?
Go for the lot.
Go for the lot? Okay, thank you. So, Karen, thank you very much for that report. Really good stuff, and I have to say I'm really encouraged, actually, by some of the positive movement in the right direction in the last week. I am, of course, I haven't introduced myself. Councillor Adam Parker, Brockenhurst and Denny Lodge. I have to say, obviously, I'm primarily concerned with the issues in Brockenhurst, and there was a flurry of responsiveness and action on behalf of residents after the last extraordinary meeting, which was good. But I've got a few questions on your report and on broader issues. So, regarding the report, it was mentioned about contract management being an issue, and as Councillor Armstrong said, I heard that referenced by Brockenhurst residents. Is it possible to quantify and give us more detail on what those improvements are? Because, you know, I was told by some residents that it seemed to be non-existent, for some of it at least. Is there any data available on injury improvements for operatives? That would be good to know. I note the disparity in trials between Brockenhurst and elsewhere in the district, and I have to say, just as a general point, I really wish Brockenhurst had had the all containers trial, because, and I've just been sent pictures from a resident earlier today. Donkeys aren't just going for the food waste bins, you know, they're going for the recycling, they're going for the general waste. And I've got a picture sent to me today of donkeys with lots of cardboard in their mouths, having a lovely time. So, you know, if this trial does move on to something more substantial, my vote, if it has any bearing, would be please let's have the full all trials, all containers put behind gates. That would be very welcome. Regarding website alterations, presumably these are fed by complaints and maybe even some of the messages I've been sending to officers. I don't know. I'd be very happy to assist here based on correspondence I've received if you're still receiving ideas on website improvements and correspondence. So, yes, thank you for that. And just going back to Councillor Armstrong's point about the tour and meeting with residents on Friday morning, I've compiled some notes on that. I was very grateful for the thorough and thoughtful reports from Councillor Armstrong, who also attended. and residents John and Esme Stanton, which should hopefully now have been forwarded on to all panel members. I have to say I approve of their findings and sentiments in both to the letter. It was really good stuff. And I hope they'll be dissected and actioned fully by councillors and officers alike. I was disappointed not to see Councillor Blunden at the walk and the meeting. I understand you had personal matters to attend to on the day. I'm sorry to hear this, and I hope you're okay. But what really bothers me is that none of the other 25 Conservative councillors and multiple cabinet members could come along in your stead, despite being specifically requested by residents. There is a network of volunteers in Brockenhurst, which is so responsive. They were behind this meeting. It's deliberately non-political and inclusive. And one of the organisers of this event openly shared in emails that she is a lifelong Conservative. Why didn't this happen? Why wasn't it delegated to another Conservative? I'm not singling you out here, but I am puzzled. I don't like any aspect of this whole process being slowed down. Did you consider this unimportant? I've said before that I'm not doing any of this for partisan point scoring. I just want resolutions. I just want my phone to stop ringing. But I do think, at the very least, your party does need to show up. Bin issues aren't sexy, but they are NFDC's bread and butter. The Liberal Democrats managed to send 4 councillors, by my count. We had one independent who wrote a stellar report. I would have really liked to have seen at least one Conservative councillor present. This has been a real...
Councillor Parker, I think you're getting off track.
Okay, I'm labouring the point perhaps, but I had to say it. This has been a real source of stress for me over the last 3 months, as I'm sure it has for officers and operatives involved. Okay, I'm going to cut it short there. Regarding the pannage letter that's being sent out, the letter rollout seems to be incomplete, which is leading to some confusion amongst Brockenhurst residents. Should people who haven't had the letter but who meet the criteria leave their bins behind their gates? Please can I have clarification on this urgently, as it is bin day tomorrow? Is the pannage concession that's laid out in the letter time limited? It only refers to during pannage. We know all about the pandemic potential of pannage pigs running rampant on food waste bins, and it rightly strikes fear into the hearts of many. But what about afterwards? This is a narrow concession and a take on an ongoing issue which affects all wildlife in the New Forest.
Councillor Parker, I think you've cleared enough, thank you. You're meant to be asking a question.
Well, there are a lot of questions wrapped up in that. And I have more. All right.
Let's go there. Councillor Blunden, please.
Thank you. Councillor Geoffrey Blum, Portfolio Holder for Environment and Sustainability. I'm not going to answer the question, but I do take issue quite strongly. It was at late hour that I was unable to attend the meeting due to a family matter. I will not share with you the details. It is not appropriate. There's nothing wrong with me, but I had to deal with a family matter. And I trust you will respect that answer.
Thank you. Get on to the next question, please. Stephanie.
Well, no, I think he's just carrying on to answer those questions.
Okay. Please carry on.
Okay, well, there are a number of questions raised, which I will attempt to answer briefly. Regarding the contract management of the bin distribution contractor, JET, that has been really tightened up and improved. Obviously, if councillors or other people do hear of issues, please do report it to us, because we then report it on to the management of the contractor, and they deal with it, and they have been dealing with it. There have been issues with some of their employees, you know, they have taken action with those employees. So please do continue to report those to us. We're very grateful about those. In terms of injury data, yes, we do have tangible evidence. Just in the first 2 months, there have been no instances of any injury due to manual handling or sharps, and these types of injuries are fairly common within waste operatives. So, you know, that's a really good demonstration of the health and safety benefits that we're seeing using wheeled containers rather than sack collections. The fact that you suggested, or you would have preferred, the trial in Brockenhurst to see all containers behind the gates, again, we had to test 2 scenarios. So, you know, yes, it was a bit of luck of the draw in terms of which area got which option, but the whole point is we're trying to gather tangible evidence to build a business case to bring back to Cabinet and to Council, so that those decisions can be debated and made about whether or not there should be, whether or not it's affordable for there to be a policy change. Because if there is a policy change to collect either food waste containers and or all waste containers, there will be a significant resource implication to that. And so, you know, it is a serious matter for the Council to consider. So we do have to produce, you know, an evidenced business case for you to be able to consider that going forward. I think there was something about website improvements. Again, any suggestions that you have, please feed them back to us. If people have had issues or difficulties, you know, we're trying to make improvements to the website and the way that residents contact us all the time. And I think the final comment was just about the pannage letter. This has been sent to 2,200 households, and that was based on this new data set that we've compiled. So we've tried to pick up all the households that we think are affected. If there are examples that you think we've missed, please let us know. It's not an infallible system. You know, there may be properties that are missing. But what that letter does say is that we will continue to collect from behind the gate until further notice. I'll let Liz just supplement that. I don't understand her note. So you know, there is an intention to you know, not just stop that at the pannage period, but to wait for this wider consideration of the business case, so the Council can make a decision about their policy moving forward. And this is just going to add to that. Thank you.
Just on the letters, the letter deliveries have been hand-delivered by our canvassing teams. They're doing a logic check on making sure they're going to the right properties, because it's a new data set. They are still delivering these. They're still ongoing. So some properties may not have them, but they should have them by the end of tomorrow.
Right, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Liz, for your comprehensive response there. I have a list. Malcolm.
Thank you, Chairman. I've probably got more years on this council than most of the people in this room. Perhaps Derek might have had a similar number. I'm not sure how long Andy's been with the authority, but apart from that, certainly more than the rest of you. I recognise this is the biggest project this council's ever had to do. It's also incredibly complex. Putting wheelie bins, food waste in New Forest isn't like putting it in a borough. It's not like putting it in a rural district without roving animals, because there are many challenges. And I too went to Brockenhurst to see what it was like. So I've got a number of questions, because yes, it was my motion to delay it. And you might say, why was that the case? Looking at this from a purely project management basis, so because project management, you're doing a project to achieve something, and something goes wrong. There's a logic says you pause, put in the actions to deal with that, review it before you move on. Now, that is how we used to do projects in industry. So the question I want to ask is, because we've got this date of the 31st of March, the wording in the ruling from government is to introduce food waste by the 31st of March. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't say have it all done by the 31st of March. So if I'm wrong on that, please come back and tell me. Because the logic is just making sure that we've got everything right. The next question has really intrigued me. We have successfully collected waste for decades in this district. Why have we changed the routes? Which is obviously one of the problems. Is this to do with the new working arrangements, whereby to get the most out of the drivers, we've given them bigger routes or different routes? I might be totally wrong with that, but I'm trying to work out why we changed the routes that have worked successfully. That's caused a problem. Do you want me to stop? We've got two more. Do you want me to stop or carry on? Carry on. Okay. I can't understand why some of the problems we've had. Is it to do, and it must be to do probably with looking at best practice in other areas and thinking it would work the same in the New Forest. But we are such a unique area. We're so different. I mean, there aren't very many rural districts with roaming animals. There are some, but not in the quite way we have. So I'm just curious how we've done it, and particularly customer services. Because the first thing the residents do, they've got a problem, is pick the phone up. I'm just trying to understand why we got in that position. And what I would like to see, an honest review of what went wrong. I know we're putting actions in to do it, and that was a good presentation. And it probably is very brave in a presentation, because you know what all the members are going to be nagging you about over this. But why did these things happen so that we can make sure in the future they don't, in other projects? Because there's some oversight that I think is
thank you,
missing.
Malcolm. Okay, I'll hand it over to Chris. Do you want to take this, or will it be Karen? Or please do.
Yeah, Chris Noble, Assistant Director for Place Operations. So I'll try and take each of those in turn. So it is correct that the 31st of March is the legal deadline that we are aiming for the introduction of food waste. So all households must have the food waste collection in place by then, which is why we've gone for the mid-March date to ensure that we do comply with that timeline. In terms of the routing, the collection rounds that we had within the district hadn't been reviewed for a really long time, mainly because we've sort of been waiting for this service change and this service development, as you know, Councillor, for quite some time. We're waiting for that government guidance and clarity on what they wanted local authorities to do and how they wanted us to collect material and by when. So we hadn't done any of that normal efficiency work on the collection rounds that a council would normally do every few years because we have new properties coming on stream. There's always work you can do to improve routes and rounds and make sure we're operating as efficiently as possible. That hadn't been done for quite some time. So that whole efficiency piece needed to be done. But also there is a fundamental difference between a bin collection and a sack collection in terms of the number of properties you can get to each day on a round. So the sack collection system is a quicker collection because it is a case of obviously taking the sack from the house to the back of the truck and then you're done. Obviously with the bin collection there is the taking of the bin back to the property afterwards, and so the number of properties you can actually collect from in a day on the bin collection is different to the sack collection. So that means there needed to be new routes created that were efficient and had the right number of properties on them that could be obviously completed. And obviously we know, and that, as detailed on the slides, on some days the rounds have ended up being heavier than we thought they would be, and that has led to some of the issues around not completing rounds on certain days of the week. So we're not saying we've got that perfect, but we've got it. That's obviously being improved all the time, and the speed is being improved all the time. I think in terms of the sort of our unique area, yes, we do have that unique sort of mix of rural and urban, and obviously the issues around open livestock areas as well. We obviously had put into place plans that we thought would see us succeed on that front. Some things have happened that have meant that We've obviously had to adapt and change as we've gone through, and so we've learnt from that for phases 2 and phases 3. And I think the final point was around project and programme management. We have been reviewing that as we've been going through. We have now, for example, increased the frequency of our steering group meeting to weekly in response to some of the issues that we've had, to try and obviously make sure we've got the right level of oversight of the actions that we're putting in place to try and address the issues in phase 1, as well as the planning areas for phases 2 and phase 3. So that has been put in place. If I may, Chair, just come back on a point from earlier around pannage, just a point of clarity while I've got
Please,
the microphone,
yes.
if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Which is just to cover the actual recommendation within the Cabinet report from last week that will obviously be going through to the next full council meeting for discussion, and just for absolute clarity on what sort of has been agreed and what was proposed in that Cabinet report and agreed by Cabinet, which is that officers continue to work on the business case to extend the behind the gate policy beyond pannage, and that an in-principle agreement to this longer-term policy change is given, with the final decision being subject to a business case. So the reason for that in-principle decision is that it sort of gives officers the sign-off, if you like, to proceed with the planning for that arrangement, but obviously that is still subject to that final business case, but that obviously indicates the sort of direction of travel for the administration and for officers that we're working on at the moment.
Thank you, Chris. Alan, thank you for waiting. Your question.
I would just like some reassurance that by curing these problems that have come up without delaying anything, people like myself in phase 3 will not be delayed in getting our bins, although a lot of our people need assurance that they'll be able to get the bins in and out, mainly because we are fed up with the seagulls and the crows spreading the waste right along the road, because that is employing extra people to come and tidy that up. And that means that we can't put our bags out early in the morning. We have to make sure the truck's just up the road and get the bags there before the crows get there. But also I'd like some information on the improvements made on collection of food waste and waste in general for recycling. Thank you.
Who's going to answer that one? Liz, please.
Sorry, just trying to put everything away.
Don't fight over it, please. Thank you.
The intention at the moment is to continue on the current timescale as we are. Obviously, there's a democratic process that's been gone through on those elements. But the intention at the moment is that we're sticking to the timetables and we're working to those and working with the contractors with the intention of phase 3 being on time, because we're acutely aware that the part of the reason that we're moving to bins is because the seagulls attack everything, and it does, as you've mentioned, have a big impact on our street cleaning services, who have to tidy up quite a lot of mess because of it all. On the recycling rate element, if you just bear with me, so there are some improved stats just from the first couple of months, just to illustrate where we've come with it. So quarter one's recycling rate is now up to 40.2%. So we've historically sat around between 34 and 36%. So there's already an immediate increase, which is really, really good. We've seen that household waste is down 6% on the same period last year, as we've done a lot of communication on the recycling and we've moved food waste out of the refuse stream. So curbside residual, so household waste as a whole is down 6% if we've done educational elements. Curbside residual waste is down 8% on the same period. And in this quarter so far, we've done 130 tonnes of food waste that's been recycled. So they're really positive statistics across the board there.
Thank you very much. Positive news.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Stephanie? Yes?
Thank you, Chairman. Stephanie Osborne, Dibden and Dibden Purley. My question, well, I've got a couple of questions actually, but my question for my own area is, when is the water side, in particular higher than Dibden, going to get their delivery of waste sacks. Many residents are complaining they've run out. Many are unable to collect them from the Grove or any other place that you're suggesting they go to. So that's question number one. I did go to Brockenhurst, which I found a very, very interesting exercise in the afternoon. And the residents there were very, very well organised and gave me one question, which I don't think anyone's asked today, is could we have a better comms system in that, like when you're going to get your waste, your glass collection taken, they thought it would be easy if they were going to get forgotten, at least they knew to take it in, because people have got used to a supervisor coming out later once you've reported it. So now the current system means that they're trying to go online, which I do need to remind everyone is not for everybody. Not everyone can go online. A lot of people still prefer to pick up the phone, which isn't actually an option easy at the moment. So really I want to know if the comms can include that. My residents do not have a footpath, and also some residents that are speaking to me do not actually have a gate. So I don't know if that needs revising. So they've got a cattle grid, but not actually got a gate or a wicket gate. So I think that's something that's been overlooked today as well. So are the operatives allowed to cross a cattle grid? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm desperately looking through for my notes because I do actually have quite a lot of detail on the sacks somewhere. So sack collections, we are in a process of rapidly catching up. So we did get a number of weeks behind. We are now at about 6 weeks behind on the initial scheduled collection, but at the same time, we're recovering that quite rapidly. So 6 weeks behind, but we recover back to that within 6 weeks without further delaying the other collections. So this week we have got sack deliveries out in Hounsdown and areas around there. We'll be moving on to Marchwood, and then basically Dibden should be next week. So we're rapidly moving through the areas. We then move to Holbury and Blackfield after that, as we continue to catch up. So they should hopefully be with your constituents very quickly on that front. So just going back to the other questions. On the comms on the lake glass collections, we are looking at ways we can improve these at the moment. So as mentioned before, if you've got any suggestions, please feed them in. We have tried to put in improvements in place with the messaging to a customer services team. So if people do call in, and we're looking at ways we can improve that. We've, as part of the improvements, just got in-cab units in a slightly better place for the glass collections, and that'll update our Bartek, our waste portal on the website to provide a bit more information.
I'm not referring to the glass. Obviously, the messaging to the glass is adequate.
Okay, yeah.
They're asking why can't they be let know about the other waste, like maybe bin waste or whatever, it'll be food waste. But in my area, people are getting the black bin took, and then the recycling just left for 2 weeks. And so somebody has got that problem in their driveway where they've piled the sacks up, and they're trying to distribute it back out to the people down their roads. Don't forget, we represent a lot of areas where it's not a quiet country road, but it is a footpathless road with a lot of traffic.
So I think this is one I might have to take away separately, because in the phase 3 areas there should not be a significant disruption to the collection service. So I'd need to look at specifically what that issue is. So it might be one just for me to take out of this meeting and then come back to you on that one. Okay.
To you about two particular areas I was hoping you might have looked at. Thank you.
So they will be with the supervisor team, but I will come back to you on that one. So we'll pick that one up separately. On the question on the cattle grids, so part of the big piece of work that we're doing at the moment that we've got survey teams out in is looking at in the animal grazing areas exactly where those collection points are. So we've got a team out that are risk assessing collections, so looking at not only where the collection point is, but how safe it is to get to the cruise on it. And that includes an assessment of exactly where we can collect a container from. Behind a gate, if there's a cattle grid, where we've got the cattle grid elements, they're being passed to a supervisor to look specifically at the best, safest place for the crews to collect from. The crews are instructed that they cannot cross cattle grids, and that's related to the fact that we've historically had people cross cattle grids, put foot through and break an ankle. So as an employer, we've got a duty of care on that front. So we'll be looking at those properties on a case-by-case basis. And the intention is that for the phase 2 and phase 3 properties in the animal grazing areas, that we've got much more specific communications in that letter that has the section 46 in, so the third wave of communications, to give them a lot more detail on where their container goes. So again, improving on the messaging for curbside collection versus specific collection points, it's all part of that improvement process that we're going through. But I can assure you that we're looking specifically at those in quite a lot of detail. For example, in the phase 2 area, we've identified about 90 properties so far that have that issue. We're just working through those before we move on to the other areas.
Thank you, Liz. I think we've aired this enough now. Thanks to the three of you for this presentation this evening and the information you've been able to give us. So thank you, Liz, Karen and Chris. Now, members... I need to take a break. Okay. The members, you were to note this particular presentation, so that's as far as it goes. And we'll go on to item 7, the Christchurch Bay and Harbour Flood Coastal Erosion Risk Management strategy, and we've been there before. So, Steve Cook, please, and Pete.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. I'm Pete Ferguson, the new FSOM team manager for Coastal. And the purpose of this report is to seek the panel's consideration for the readoption of the Christchurch Bay and Harbour Coast Risk Management Strategy, which was originally adopted in September 2024. This follows amendments made in response to the Environment Agency's assurance process, which was completed in May 2025. The strategy has been developed collaboratively by New Forest District Council with BCP, the Environment Agency and engineering consultants ACON. It sets out the long-term 100-year vision for managing coastal risks and prioritising future coastal defence schemes. Importantly, without an adapted strategy, access to grant-in-aid funding is likely to be significantly reduced. The Environment Agency's assurance process focused on affordability, investment planning and the starting points of the adaptation pathways for the preferred management unit options. In response, the strategy project team undertook further work to address these points. This resulted in limited revisions of the starting points of some adaptive pathways, and this was included in a revised strategic appraisal report. However, these changes were considered significant enough to require a full council adoption process once again. The key changes, which are referenced in the table on page 38, indicate that for Barton-on-Sea, there's a shift from the national to the backup option with no schemes, but it incurs a lower cost. For Rookcliffe, there's a shift from the local to the national option, but a delayed start to the upgrade scheme, and a similar for Milford-on-Sea, where there's a shift from national to backup. However, for all these units, there is a capital refurbishment proposed for Epoch 1. These changes help address the short-term funding challenges, and the revised options require less partnership funding in the first epoch under the current funding rules. The estimated contributions then over the next 20 years are now estimated to be around 13 million, and this represents a reduction of 26 to 37 million estimate, which were presented in the original report. An additional amendment includes a list of potential funding resources detailed in point 19 on page 41. It's important to note that there is no statutory duty on the local authority to undertake these schemes if they're not justified or adequately funded, and adoption of the strategy does not commit NFDC to providing funding for the preferred delivery options. Finally, the report clarifies that no further public consultation was undertaken following the revisions due to the minor nature of the changes. However, a reference to a briefing note on NFDC's website has been published. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions, anyone? Alan.
Thank you. So if we do this, there will be no cost to NFDC at all, or no significant cost. Does that take the point?
In the report, we highlight a number of funding sources that New Forest District Council could look to draw on to do this. There is references to council reserves and council tax and those type of things. They're really recognised as being options should the council wish to use those, but there's no commitment to New Forest. But they could be. The council is in a position to invest if it wishes to.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? No? Right, well, the recommendations are on page 33, 33 and 34, over the page. Our members agreed with those recommendations. Thank you very much. Item 8, the annual report on climate change and nature emergency, and Roxanne is here. Good evening. Thank you. Could you present your paper?
Good evening. Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. So I'm Roxanne King. I'm the Service Manager for Public Realm and Sustainability. So thank you for considering of this paper. This is the annual update report that addresses our actions and data relating to the climate change and nature emergency that was declared by the Council in 2021. Within the report, this includes data and a summary of activities undertaken in the financial year 24-25. The background and introduction to this report outlines the key challenges faced at a local, regional and national level to meet the climate targets that we have declared. And this is followed by an overview of the key work undertaken with and alongside our local partners, such as Hampshire County Council and the New Forest National Park Authority. The report then outlines our emissions data as both a local authority and the wider district. Both of these areas show a decrease consistent with the last reporting year of approximately 2%. The high emissions areas also remain the same as in previous years. So for the council, our largest area is fleet, and for the area, it remains transportation. From paragraph 31, we provide examples of the projects and activities undertaken across each of our 4 established programme areas. These are carbon reduction, climate adaptation, nature recovery and programme management. We then also outline some fuller case studies on a number of key projects. These have been undertaken by a lot of the services within the council, not only driven by the climate team, but also our estates, planning, transportation and other colleagues as well. We also include case studies from some of our local partners and communities. Finally, the report presents an update on our strategic direction for this work area, emphasising the role and the importance of the member task and finish group, which is currently underway. I'm happy to take any questions and welcome your feedback on the report.
Thank you. Alvin.
Thanks for the report, Roxy. Good report, thank you. The waste strategy, additional vehicles, additional emissions. Have we done any work so far to see how that's affecting what we're doing and what we can do to mitigate that?
I'll take that one if that's okay. Yeah, I think still early days. I think if you can cast your mind back to the original waste strategy from a few years ago, we did some modelling in there around the implications of the change to the waste service and what that would mean in terms of emissions. What that predicted, and we'll see obviously over the course of time how that compares with reality. What we predicted was that there would be an increase in the number of vehicles required to deliver the waste strategy, fundamentally because of the collection of food waste separately that obviously needs its own vehicle fleet to achieve, and that would increase emissions from the vehicle fleet. However, in the act of obviously diverting that food waste away from incineration and into an anaerobic digestion setup with a cleaner energy generation sort of associated with that, and also increases in recycling of paper, card, glass and other materials that would accompany the service change, the overall benefit in terms of emissions would be a positive one, so an increase in the vehicle emissions, but a reduction in the emissions associated with dealing with our waste, and so an overall positive benefit. But probably still a bit early days for us to see that sort of tangibly coming through in the data, but I'm sure certainly next time we report back, we can make sure that that is a key element of the update that we give to the panel.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Yes, so Peter, I've got you, please.
Councillor Peter Armstrong. I was pleased to meet one of our partners or contractors who we've done for the housing. Richard probably knows about this, where we're having boilers put in and 95% efficient. Are we able to use some of their efficiency because they've got solar panels and their vehicles are electric? They're producing them at zero percentage of carbon. I think that's brilliant. I mean, I haven't heard anybody shout about that because we've got a partner who's producing the goods for us in our council housing really, really well. It's something we should shout about, but where does that end up in the figures at the moment? Because it will increase, I know, as we have more put in, but I was thrilled to hear that.
Roxanne.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Armstrong. And it's really positive to hear that we're encouraging contractors that are having such positive environmental impact through their operations. It's something that we're working really strongly with our housing teams, but also procurement, to make sure that we're building those types of requirements and encouraging that behaviour from our contractors through all of the activities that we're undertaking. Absolutely, those emissions will help reduce both the council's emissions and the area-wide, so we do track those. I know that our housing colleagues in Sophie Tuffin's team are particularly good at tracking the positive impact from that. From a climate team perspective, we're in a positive position in that we've now recruited additional members to the team, including a projects and engagement officer. We have our sustainability officer and our new climate and sustainability lead. So we're hoping to be able to capture more of these good news stories so that in future iterations of the annual report where we're providing case studies, we can really highlight the good work done by our partners as well as by the council services.
I was just surprised that we aren't shouting about that or saying, you know, I mean, that's a good news story. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take that away. Thank you.
Thanks, Roxy. Thanks, Peter. Malcolm, I'll have you down next. Right. Stephanie?
Stephanie Osborne, Dublin Purley. Yeah, my concern when I heard at one of the last meetings about the transport being one of our, things to address, is the fact that we've now got more lorries, so more taking separated waste, instead of using the local burner, which I know everyone's trying to say we've got a new anaerobic is much better, but we were going on a road journey to, Herne, on the A31, which is a congested and busy road already. And I also, wonder about the weight that everyone's on about. There's a lot more weight going out than we had before. So all these things are quite, interesting to me to see the feedback on the results, and as we're always asking for, the true figures of this government's initiative to make changes. Are they for the better? We were told they are, and I think we're supposed to believe it, but I'd like to question it, to be honest. I don't think most people that live near a food waste place find it that pleasant.
Chris?
I think, just to say, we'll gather that data over the course of the first 6 months to a year of the scheme and be able to report back on that in future. Obviously, waste in whatever form we collect it in and however we separate it has to be transported somewhere, and we have to get it to the infrastructure, and that's sort of part of obviously the process of managing it. So where we are, yes, making those journeys to the anaerobic digestion facility, obviously that is fewer journeys to the incinerator because there's less waste going to the incinerator, so one will tend to balance out the other, but yeah, we'll need to gather some more data on that.
Roxy, do you want to say more?
I was just going to pick up on some of the behaviour change points just to add to Chris there. So we are also looking at things like alternative fuels, so that any transportation we are undertaking is done in a lower emissions way if possible. So that could be through things like HVO, the hydrogenated vegetable oil, or through electric vehicles, or anything else that comes onto the market and is a viable substitute for fossil fuel. So we are constantly reviewing that and working with the transportation teams to making sure that we are being as efficient as we can be. The other point to pick up was from the waste changes, and certainly from a climate and sustainability perspective, reducing waste is always going to be our first priority, so that we have less to transport, less to manage and deliver. If we can really push that behaviour change, which is something that our team will be supporting the waste colleagues with, then that will make all of it a lower emissions and better environmental outcome.
Thank you very much. I did send an email, which I haven't had replied to yet, to James and I think it was to Steve actually. And it's about a question that was asked about why haven't we looked at community compost when there is £1 million to inspire communities to do that. So it's just another alternative that I really think we ought to be looking at. Thank you. I'll forward that to you.
Thank you. Yes, please do, and we'll take a look at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Roxy. Thank you. Malcolm, you have a question.
Thank you, Chairman. Malcolm Wade again. It's a good report, and it's full of some tangible things that the authority is doing to reduce its carbon footprint. It's very good. But we're not going to solve climate change on our own. We're not going to make the huge impact on our own. And I noticed we're looking to employ an engagement officer. Are we considering going to engage? I know we are engaging with the Hampshire County Council, National Park, corporate organisations, if I may use that term. When are we going to start engaging with the public, schools, parish councils, and that, to talk about what climate change, what the things that we're doing and the things that they could do to help reduce the carbon footprint? Because this is an issue that everybody has to contribute to make an impact. Are we considering to do that with the engagement officer, or is that not yet on the plan?
Thank you, Councillor Wade. So yeah, this is absolutely, it's a really key point, engaging with our communities. So we're pleased that this year we've been able to fund through this council sustainability budget a schools programme to talk around energy in particular, but also some of the broader issues to do with climate. Being the first week or two of September, I think we're still waiting for some responses, and we're waiting for some of the schools to start undertaking activities, but we have now engaged a supplier who is going to be doing that on our behalf. So we're helping create content for those engagement activities with the schools. We also support it's a campaign called the Greening Campaign. Previously, this has been funded by Hampshire County Council. Unfortunately, that funding at the county level has ceased, but we have greening communities, is the term that they're given, within the New Forest district. So we as a council now support them and ensure that they have the right level of support and input. They have, I believe, 5 programme areas, but that's around different aspects, whether that's recycling and waste management, greening in gardens, food waste, etc. So we are supporting those activities as well. From a business community perspective, colleagues in planning who have managed the SPF and the Rural Fund and Economic Development colleagues. We have done a number of activities to help support businesses become more environmentally aware. Through, for example, running, we offered out some carbon literacy training free for businesses. We do as much engagement as well as supporting individual projects such as solar installation or other insulation or energy saving measures. So I think with the new team structure, we're going to have more resource and capacity to be able to go out and engage more with those communities. But if there are particular networks that members have in place or are aware of, or particular groups that you think would be a good conduit to communicate with, we'd welcome any feedback and contacts.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. Right, okay, no more questions. Then I need to refer members to pages 195 and 196. Are they in agreement with those recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Right, item 9. Corporate key plan for Perns Greater and for quarter 1, and it's CKIB, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. Saqib Yassin, I'm the Performance and Insight Manager, and I'll be talking to the Corporate Plan Key Performance Indicator Dashboard, something panel members will be quite familiar with. It's a regular feature here at the panel meetings. Measure IDs 16 through to 33 are for consideration today at the Place and Sustainability Overview and Scrutiny panel. So with reference to the dashboard, this quarter, it's quarter 1, 2025-26, so the first quarter of this year. Data is presented for 23 of the KPIs. For panel today, we've got 7 KPIs marked for consideration, and there is Q4 data now also available for the waste, household waste sent for recycling, and that's been included in the dashboard that's been attached as the appendix. Just my quick summary of the measures for consideration here this evening. All of the planning measures performed very well, above local targets and indeed well above the government targets that have been set. Over the last quarter, we've had 6 appeals heard and all were dismissed. We've heard already about the households using our chargeable garden waste service has dipped slightly, but that's, we think, due to seasonal changes and the timing of renewals. Fly tipping has gone up. We've had a reprofiled target this year. That is setting a quarterly target as opposed to a year-end target. Now that's been profiled against patterns of behaviour that we've seen over previous years. Of course, this year is quite an exceptional year, unlike any other. So it's more than we would have liked. We would give assurance that we think in the data that we've seen, some of this is at least linked to people leaving glass, cardboard outside the provided containers at bring sites, and all of which is technically recorded as fly tipping. We are as well investigating any commercial use of the bring sites, because this is a period where we're seeing a lot of change in what's available, and therefore the behaviours and the practices now being used while the new service is settled. Street Scenes have assured us and given us some commentary that they react to fly tipping incidents as promptly as possible to try and reduce the impact, and we know they do a tremendous job in clearing and making the area clean and neat as soon as that is possible. Nevertheless, 870 is an increase on this same period last year, but a relatively small increase. So Q1 is generally higher, 775 this time last year against the 870 I've just mentioned. The last measure, just to make some comment on the half-litre water bottles filled at water filling stations. We've had high temperatures, as everyone will know, throughout the spring months, and that's possibly led to higher usage rates. So it's very much dependent on the temperatures and the climate and the weather, I should say, sorry. The weather, and we've seen that has gone up quite considerably. The Q1 dashboard, it will go to all 3 panels, and each panel will look at the measures that are assigned to each of them. All the comments that arise from panel will be added to covering reports for Cabinet as that makes its way through the reporting cycle. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Saqib. Interesting to see how well the planning system is performing. 6 appeals in the last quarter, all dismissed. So somebody must be doing something right. And the other thing is, I'm glad to see so few red boxes in your diagrams, which is an indication that that's working as well. Right. The other thing that bothers me is that the number of fly tipping incidents that you're recording, 870, sounds an horrendous figure. But as you've rightly said, if you leave a package outside a bring site or something like that, it's fly tipping. Although the person who deposited it there probably wanted to use it, but it was full or something like that. I was just wondering whether you would be able to sort of compartmentise fly tipping A and fly tipping B, so that the ones that are just next to the bring sites is type A, but the ones found in the forest are type B. It would give a better picture. Anyway, Richard.
Yeah, do you mind if I come in on that, Chair? So Richard Knott, Strategic Director for Housing and Communities. I think, as Zach has alluded to, I think we're in slightly extraordinary times at the moment, and whilst the team are diligently working through collecting the waste, and our enforcement teams are doing their job of trying to police those sites against dumping of waste, I think we do need to kind of review where we are in terms of that categorisation of fly tipping. And I think what we're seeing is not, as you alluded to, Chair, as well, we're not seeing what is traditional fly tipping. We're seeing kind of overspills of waste. So I think we just need to place a bit of an asterisk against those figures, as Zach has said, and if we're able to split down in future, or at least review how we're categorising fly tipping, we will do so, and we have already flagged that as a concern internally, that we do need to review the methodology of that one.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Malcolm.
As always, very concise, very good documentation of the priorities. It's very good. Oh, my trip, well done for what you've done. I have a question about fly tipping, actually. The figures that we have mentioned, the Chairman's mentioned 170, is that just in the New Forest district controlled areas? It doesn't include National Park, Forestry England, etc., etc. Because the waste isn't just in the bit that we manage. We're not responsible for fly tipping in the National Park or in the New Forest, are we? We're only responsible for the bit round the outside that we control. Do we have any idea what the overall figure is for the geographical district?
Chris?
Hello. Chris Noble, Assistant Director for Place Operations. Yeah, in the statistics, it will be fly tips that are reported to us that are our responsibility, which is essentially fly tips on public land, so whether that be sort of public highway in one of our car parks, for example. So yeah, land we are responsible for. So fly tipping on private land, on like farmland, for example, or on Forestry England land is not included within those statistics. I'm not aware of a sort of wider gathering of statistics from all the land, sort of landowners, if you like, across the district. Could take that away and just explore that a bit further, but I'm not aware that that data is routinely gathered and analysed.
Because clearly, I think Strategic Director made a point, the sort of waste is being tipped now, it's not the usual fly tipping. And the purveyors of that activity will go and tip it anywhere, preferably where no one else can see, and a lot of those areas are not under our responsibility. So, it could be a much bigger problem than we perceive in our geographical area.
Richard.
Yeah, as Chris has said, I think you raise a good point, and I know the enforcement teams, whilst it may not be our responsibility, do advise, are informed of certain fly tips on private land. So I think I'll take away an action to review the kind of intelligence gathering, because you're right, we do want to know what the situation is across the district. Obviously, it relies on private landowners reporting that into us, so we may not capture 100%, but I think where we do have that intelligence, it would be good to try and collate that. So I'll take that away.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Sakib. It's a good report, so thank you very much indeed. Right, on to item 10, Portfolio's report. I usually start with Jeff, but we're going to start with Derek, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I know we're in the graveyard slot, but it's Nice to be promoted.
The last shall be first. It's in the Bible.
Right, well, a couple of updates for you. First of all, on the local plan, the revised timetable proposes a further consultation on a draft local plan known as a Regulation 18 plan in the coming weeks, focusing on spatial growth options, general indications, that is, of where development might take place, but not specific, and emerging policy directions. This will be followed by a full draft local plan known as a Regulation 19 plan consultation in autumn of 2026. That will contain specific sites for development, and that, after it's been consulted upon, will be submitted to the Secretary of State, and that's planned by the end of next year, 2026. Officers are currently in the process of gathering all the necessary information to support the work. There will also be reviews of conservation area appraisals, starting with Ealing and Braymore, to ensure alignment with current planning policy and heritage guidance. These reviews are expected to take approximately 8 months and will be undertaken by the Council's conservation team. This revised approach ensures the Council remains compliant with statutory duties, responsive to community priorities, and the work programme will continue to be kept under review as work progresses on local government reorganisation. We are currently, of course, working with our current local plan in place, which is now over 5 years old and is also considered a little bit out of date, unfortunately. It only has currently we only have an 18-month land supply instead of the 5 years required, and so we are vulnerable to speculative development applications, which planning inspectors will or might be more likely to allow them, contrary to the wishes of the council or local people. A new local plan, of course, will deal with these issues once it's adopted. Second point, on economic development, we have a skills action plan from 2025 to 2030, and there is a new strategic group in place with its first working group focusing on young people. It held its first meeting last week. Nearly £200,000 of UK shared prosperity funding is backing these new programmes, from start-up support and apprenticeships to digital skills and reaching out to young people who are not in education, employment or training. They are known as NEETs, apparently. We've also partnered with Maritime Solent to boost local careers in the marine sector, the first local authority to do so. By working with Maritime Solent, which is a sort of hub organisation which connects the many different parts of the marine industry, the Council is ensuring that local training and apprenticeship programmes are aligned with real industry needs, helping businesses access a skilled workforce and helping residents into quality jobs and driving economic growth across the district. To champion small businesses, we're sponsoring the Best Micro Business Award at the New Forest Business Partnership Brilliance in Business Awards. Entries for this close on the 30th of September. This September, New Forest residents and businesses can access skills boot camps, short, flexible courses offering job-ready skills in high-demand sectors, open to anyone aged 19 and over in Hampshire. These boot camps are ideal for career changers, business owners, and teams looking to upskill. They are supported by the Department for Education, Hampshire County Council, Fairport Training, and Get Set for Growth. And the cost of these, you might be interested to know, individuals including unemployed, self-employed and sole traders, it is free. And if you've got a small business with up to 250 employees, you only pay 10% of the course cost. Lastly, importantly, because a lot of this information is there, our relaunched business e-newsletter now reaches over 3,000 subscribers, sharing opportunities and updates across the New Forest. And if you haven't already signed up, well, you can. You get all this information. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Malcolm, yes.
Question for the portfolio holder. If you don't know this answer, you perhaps find out and let us know. Do you know how many sites across the New Forest have planning permission to build houses, but there's been no action for a number of years? Because I know there are some. And in the government's drive to get us all to build more houses, are they going to address that issue?
Yeah, well, we are aware of this, and I think there has been a report at Cabinet, I think. I seem to remember with this data and information in it, so I can easily find that, but obviously I don't have it to hand at this moment. But we do. I'll send it to you.
Alan.
Thank you. In Fawley, or the 6 villages of Fawley, we have where the old power station was, where we had a large amount of houses to be built. I understand they were too dear to be built. But now there are rumours going round that someone from the council has come along, took a quick look across it and said it can't be used for housing. Although it used to have offices the size of houses rafted on there. I think this is totally bunkum. Could we know what's happening with that? Because it's holding up the economic development of the South Waterside. Just through someone coming along, no idea who it was, saying it's not suitable for housing.
Say again. Tim, thank you.
Chair, if I may help a little bit, the position on Fawley Waterside is, as previously reported, both to this panel and to the wider council, that the future direction of the site is still being actively looked at. There are issues about viability which were talked about in that the original thinking behind why the application was withdrawn by the developer. We are now working with the promoters of the land to look at the site in the context of the new local plan, and we will keep members updated on progress on the project as and when appropriate.
If it's of information to you, there is no one in the South Waterside who wants an industrial estate there. Not one person. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tim. Before I go to Jeff, I need to ask members, I should have got your recommendation. Peter, is it to follow on from Derek's proposal? Please.
Thank you. Derek, just to say, the business newsletter, I'm not sure when it went out last, but I was in a meeting the other day, and we've only got 100 businesses out of thousands that we got across the forest who have responded to actually back up our option 1 going to Hampshire. So could it please be arranged that our business newsletter gets that information out ASAP to ask them, for their views, because that is going to back up our whole devolution thing. I'm surprised that that hasn't got into there and is, working for us.
I'm pretty sure that we have asked businesses through the business e-newsletter to respond. And of course, the problem is that you don't get a high response to all these matters. It's quite a good response, actually, 100 businesses. That is, you might not think so, but I mean, we've got 9,000 businesses, but of course, a lot of them are not, we've only got 3,000 on the e-newsletter, so we've still got a lot of business to try and attract more, a lot to attract, to get the newsletter in the first place. But yes, it is a little bit disappointing, but it's not unexpected.
I've got another question as well. The local plan, where you did send out about all the documentation about what sizes we've got, what sites are coming forward, which we all received. It's written in professional speak. I read through it and I still can't work out how many that we still need, having read through that report. You know, how much we're missing. It seemed to be, it's a very professional report, but for lay people, it's not easy to understand. So I think I need to speak to a planning officer probably to understand it better and see what we've got. But Malcolm was saying the report's all there, but it's in professional speak. So.
If you've got any specific questions, please ask, and we'll certainly try and explain it for you.
Thank you, Derek. Right, just hold up for a minute. I need to call to members that there is a recommendation on the corporate plan, the key performance data, as the recommendations to the Cabinet. So I do need members to agree that we will recommend this report to Cabinet, please. Agreed. Thank you very much. Right, long time waiting, but Derek, Jeff, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Geoffrey Blunden, Portfolio Holder for the Environment and Sustainability. I think, first of all, kicking off with waste, the Waste Service update that I think has given us a good picture of the progress on the rollout of the new service. The team have also been analysing our waste tonnages from the first quarter, that is from April to June of 2025-26. The new service only started at the end of the quarter, but the improvement is already evident, and it's really great to see that our recycling rate in quarter one has just broken the 40% mark. To touch on public conveniences, the Council will be investing in our valued public conveniences, which we have 23 across the district, by recruiting additional cleaning teams to maintain high standards across all facilities, including our new changing places facilities that have been rolled out at key locations, and it is anticipated that the new team will be in place by the end of this year. Picking up on coastal, the coastal team are continuing to progress our planned works at Hurst Spit. Financial approval for the government funding that this council has secured is expected from the Environmental Agency in the coming weeks. And in conjunction with this, the team have tendered for the works to appoint a suitable contractor. Tenders have now been received and they're being evaluated, and we are expecting to start the works in mid-October. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Jeff. Please. Stephanie, you first.
Thank you, Chairman. Stephanie Osborne. Geoffrey, I would like to know if you could get a report on the Ealing toilets, the ones near the cemetery, because I think they really need to be looked at in more ways than one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. I'll certainly take that away and follow that up.
Thank you, Jeff. Right. Alvin?
Thank you for the report, Jeff. One for you and or Roxy, I think. I've noticed that the lavatories in New Milton are cleaned regularly now, which I thank you for, especially last weekend when we had 2 functions going on the right. However, they are clean, but because we're using environmentally friendly cleaning products, it's not getting rid of the stains, so they look dirty even though they're clean. Is there any work going on to try and find some environmentally friendly cleaning products that have a sort of a bleaching effect to get rid of the stains?
Yep, thank you for that, Alvin. Yes, I actually can confirm that a number of products are being looked at as far as a part of a constant process. But I'll refer to Roxy if you want to add anything to that.
Don't need to add much, thank you, Councillor. Yes, we have started a new process of working with some different cleaning products. They've proven successful in a number of the locations. As you all know, having visited many of our facilities, everyone is unique. They're all slightly different. They have slightly different surfaces. There's slightly different conditions. Even access to airflow through the buildings, things like that make a difference to the products that we need to use. The environmentally friendly aspect we would like to retain as far as possible, but we are trying different products to make sure that they are leaving a clean, fresh smell and look to the facilities. So that is underway, and we will see how the next month or so goes with those new products.
Thank you. It is noticeable that they look stained and therefore people think they're dirty when they're actually clean.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cleaning products, the environmentally friendly cleaning products that we're using currently are biologically based, so they are removing the germs, or they're dealing with the hygiene issues, but they're not necessarily bleaching and giving that clean, removing the staining. It's a different element of the cleaning product that does that job. So we appreciate that there is a balance to be had, so we're trying those different products to see what the right combination is going to be in each facility.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roxy.
Malcolm as well.
Yes, okay. Hang on a minute there. Kate.
Thank you. Just to remind everybody that although Calshot's not a particularly sexy place to visit, it's probably the busiest, and the toilet is the oldest, I would imagine. And so being busy, if we're going to talk about cleaning, can we think about more regular cleaning because of its old state and the fact that because it's right on the seafront where all the ships go by, it's used 52 weeks of the year by lots of older people and they need the toilet clean. Thank you very much.
Certainly take that back, but as part of the look at cleaning and the revised methods, that will be picked up.
Just say there are two toilets there. There's the one that looks like a bomb shelter that a lot of blokes go into and miss. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
If I can just add on that, of course, as part of looking at our assets, we're also looking at investing in our public conveniences across the board, looking at a priority to replace them.
Yep. Thank you, Jeff. Malcolm.
Thank you, Chairman. Would the portfolio holder agree that a good item to go on the work programme for this panel next year is a overall review of how the waste rollout went?
I'll think about it.
I think certainly as far as the waste rollout is going, and I think Councillor Wade referred to projects and how they're run, which is projects are not cast in stone. As you move along, you review them, you learn from them, listen, have feedback and adjust accordingly.
The question I was asking is, do you think it's a good idea for this panel next year, when it's all done, to do a review of it? That's scrutinise it. That's the point. The question I was asking.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But one would do that automatically, I think, Malcolm.
There you are. Right. Thank you, Jeff. Right. I think we shut the door on that. Thank you. Moving on, item 11 is the work programme. Our next meeting, 15th of January, has got a full list already. The one following that is the 12th of March. So members to note, item 12, there's dates for future meetings in 2026 and 2027. Will we be still here? Those are to note. And that is finally that. There's no other matters to which I need to raise. So thank you everybody for your attendance. I'm sorry it's taken so long. Big agenda really. And have a safe journey home. Thank you.